Okay, hi, friends, and welcome to program number 28 in Telepathy and the Etheric Vehicle. Today is the 20th of November, and we're looking at page 21, which kind of begins a new section. Yesterday I did not make a program. It was just something where I felt a little break was needed. But whatever I do try to prepare for you is sent either by Michael Crow or by BL or by Harold Moses and Joe. So you should have these things relatively up to date. As far as a, let's see here. Yeah, I guess I'm doing okay for the moment. As far as a segue is concerned, DK tells us that impression governs and conditions all those within the hierarchy whose abstract mind is highly developed. That's something to think about, and note that these are those individuals who are within the hierarchy. We certainly see that in the case of Master Decay, his abstract mind is highly developed, and his ability to deal with pure reason of the Buddhic plane is, certainly from our perspective, outstanding. Now, about the development of this abstract mind, DK went on to say, it is not fully developed in the case of many disciples in the ashram. Well, I suppose that would mean that the Antakarana had, the first phase of it had not been successfully completed. So many disciples within the ashram do not have this abstract mind development and going on with decay, and hence only certain members of the hierarchy, the masters, the adepts, and is there a difference? Maybe sometimes the term adept is used in relation to the fourth degree, but so often to the fifth degree. The masters, the adepts, and initiates of the third degree. Looking at this, it seems that he's listing it as a kind of descending order of initiation. Initiation 5, initiation 4, and initiation 3. But the term adepts is actually flexible and can certainly apply to initiation number 5. Well, in any case, DK says that only certain members of the hierarchy are permitted to know the details of the plan. Well, certainly, interpolating here, we don't know the details of the plan. We know some generalities, and perhaps we know how we might be able to help with the externalization of those generalities. And the word there is permitted. So definitely it is held back from the average disciple and even from the probationary initiate. These, DK goes on, I assume he means disciples in the ashram. At least that's the way it seems to me at the moment, in connection with the word these. These are protected by means of this very science of impression. Perhaps to know too much along this line would be some sort of danger, some kind of excess strain, we might say. Too much, that is, for the disciple or simply the group of disciples, whereas the generalities are not too much. The DK goes on, the remaining members of hierarchy take their orders from their seniors. Now, that seems pretty obvious, I would say. And who does he mean by the remaining members? Well, perhaps, well, I think this is true of all members of hierarchy, but it's certainly also going to be true of probationary initiates. So anyway, let's see. Yes, I see. Okay. Sometimes I just have to pause things for a moment to get my bearings, but this is going to be the 28th program that we're ready to enter. And it is the 20th of November, and we are on page 71. I think it goes to about 75. I'm not sure that we can do all that. We'll see. So this section is called Mind, the focus of planetary development. I think it has been said that a great station of light is meant to be produced on our planet. And as, from a certain perspective, the human being is Manus, we will find what the human being does as important in this mind focus, which the planet itself, the planetary logos, Sanat Kumara, the high initiates, etc., are trying to achieve. After all, this planet does have a third ray personality which immediately ties it in with the realm of mind. So DK goes on now. I would ask you to remember, he says, that in our planetary development, the emphasis of the entire evolutionary process is on the mind. It certainly is boldly capitalized, all capital letters. I suppose maybe that is the choice of the editor. But anyway, the emphasis of the entire evolutionary process is on the mind and on the various aspects of the mind. Intelligence, that term sometimes in a Neo-Platonic sense has been used differently than simply the rational aspect of the mind. It goes deeper. So intelligence, says the Tibetan, in terms of the various aspects, mental perception, the sun of mind, found, let us say, on the second and third subplanes of the higher mental plane, the lower mind, the abstract mind, found particularly as the lowest aspect of the spiritual triad, and further, DK says, the mind as will, the universal mind, and immediately one begins to think of Atma. Now, when I look at this collection of the various aspects of the mind, I don't see any particular order. I mean, unless intelligence is simply meaning the growth of mental perception, until finally mental perception is achieved, which is still rational, logical, and in the concrete mind, but the concrete mind is mentioned again. The sun of mind is definitely a Mercurian factor found on the second and third subplanes of the higher mental plane, and the lower mind has to do with the four subsidiary subplanes of the entire normal solar plane of mind. We can call our normal planes systemic planes or solar planes, but they're not listed in order as far as I can see, because the sun of mind is high, and so is the abstract mind, and even higher is the mind as will. Now, in Atma, you have a combination of Brahmic will and the mind of the planetary logos, which we could call an aspect of the universal mind. But then what's the lower mind doing in there between two higher examples of mind? So maybe at this point he just didn't want to be bothering with a strict order of ascending or descending capacities of mind. He does, however, end with what we might call the normal highest aspect of mind, And I believe this would be reflecting the atomic plane. Now you can go higher onto the cosmic planes in your search for universal mind. And if we pay attention to that word universal, it does take in the entire logos, universal logos. So this idea of universal mind extends a great deal. Now, just making a connection here, Aquarius is a strongly mental sign, and also the sign or constellation of universality. So the universal mind has a lot to do with the coming in of Aquarius, which is, as I said, both mental and universal. And here I just want to point out that the entire process of planetary development is on the mind. So think about that in relation to Earth. Okay. The three which are of major importance and which form an esoteric triangle, I guess the three out of these various aspects of the mind, I guess so, and forming an esoteric triangle requiring to be brought into vital, that's living, vibrant, interactive interrelation, are the sun of mind. It's a middle factor within the soul, second and third subplanes, the abstract mind, first subplane, and the universal mind, beginning with Atma and extending onto the cosmic planes. So again, we can study triangles as we work with this somewhat different presentation, yet there are triangles constantly appearing, and we need to be aware of them, such as this esoteric triangle. So let's pause and think for a moment. We have the kind of mind as it is in Christ. We have the abstract mind, which even, I guess, non-spiritual types can utilize. And we have the universal mind of Atma. We seem to have left out something that is not mentioned, the transcendental mind, which is basically a Mercurian type of mind found on the Buddhic plane. So maybe in some ways, although we have to follow DK in this, we didn't need to leap over the Buddhic plane in this enumeration. So the Tibetan is telling us here that these qualities or aspects of mind, when fully related and active, they are, in his words, the factors which engineer divine purpose and step it down into such a form that we call it the hierarchical plan and we act upon it. So upon this, a collection of types of mind, son of mind, abstract mind, and universal mind, the three great lords in hierarchy draw. They bring together these three and are responsible then for delivering such aspects of the plan as they are permitted to deliver. I suppose even the Christ, as the Bodhisattva and the head of hierarchy, in one sense, has his permissions, what he may say and what he might not say. So we have to avoid the idea of the scatter, that here's one aspect, here's another, here's another. We have to relate them. We have to activate them and relate them. So fully related is very important. Active, very important. And divine purpose cannot really reach the disciples in anything but a kind of vague and general outline, but it can be stepped down as an aspect of the plan, and then the disciples can bring it into incarnation. Now you could ask yourself right now, what am I? Meaning you, I, and all the others that are working in this direction. What are we bringing down that we call the hierarchical plan, and how do we act upon it? The factor we've been learning, the factor of immanence, is very important, kind of a law of immanence with which the hierarchy deals. Is this needed now? If it is immanent. And the hierarchy, being practical, tries to bring the immanent factors into demonstration, into manifestation. Okay. Now going on just a little bit with the Tibetan. Only when the initiate has attained through monadic contact, so let us interpolate and say it is a high initiate. So only when the initiate has attained through monadic contact a touch of the universal mind can the purpose be sensed by him. Well, at least Atma, as it reflects the logoic plane and the monadic planes. Monadic contact, it will only begin for real once the third initiation has been taken and once the disciple can be included more fully within the ashram. So only when the initiate has attained through monadic contact a touch of universal mind can the purpose be sensed by him. And DK goes on to say, this involves also the development of the abstract mind, plus the residue of mental perception, which the Son of Mind, the soul, has bequeathed to him. Now, ever and again, I'm just kind of blurring my words, excuse me. There will be eventual monadic contact. There are these different aspects of mind which are, as it were, bequeathed to him, inherited by him, is what it really means. Monadic contact is sensed on the atmic plane, especially the higher and logoic part of it, and another type of monadic contact is sensed on the Buddhic plane, but the abstract mind is not left out of the picture, nor the perception of the Son of Mind, the soul. Pretty much at this point, the angel of the presence. Now, if you look at one of the diagrams that Tuya gave you, and which demonstrates the connection of the triangular monad to the triangular spiritual triad, you will understand the interrelations between these two very high factors. High, yes, but still on the cosmic physical etheric plane. Sometimes I don't know whether to call it the cosmic physical plane or the cosmic etheric physical or the cosmic physical etheric, but just to know that the four ethers and the three denser planes are all included. And let's see. So, our sensing of the purpose is slight, but the more we follow the plan as it intends to express the immanent aspect of purpose, the more the purpose as a whole will dawn upon us. Now let's see if I can do anything here which might be of interest. And these are the AAB diagrams, but I'm going to pull out Tuya's diagrams. Well, I think we can see it right here. And we see how very much the triangular monadic expression on the monadic plane feeds the spiritual triad, and how the spiritual triad feeds what we normally call the soul. And above it all, Tuya and I marked in a kind of triangle on the logoic plane, which has to do with particularly with the etheric aspects, or mostly etheric aspects of the logoic plane, and involves the higher liberated ray of the monad, either on the first, second, or third aspect. And maybe if we had been, CDK didn't write this in, but if we had been a little more cautious, we would have this higher logoic triangle feeding the monadic triangle, which feeds the triadal, which feeds the egoic lotus causal body. So from the very highest of the ethers down to the egoic lotus or causal body, this kind of vitalizing, feeding form of expression does occur. Now, we are so used to the pancake model of the planes. I think someone who's done a good job to disabuse our minds of that particular model is Bruce Lyon, and some of the charts in which he participated having made. We're understanding through what he has had drawn a more interactive model of the planes and less of the idea of stacking one upon another. Okay. So we came to this point that only when the initiate has attained, because of monadic contact, a touch of the universal mind on Atma, and maybe from above, as the Buddha did, remarkably, taking his sixth initiation in relation to the cosmic mental plane. That's an amazing achievement. Then only when the initiate has attained, through monadic contact, a touch of universal mind, can the purpose be sensed by him. And involved in this is also abstract mind, mental perception, and son of mind. Okay. And going on with DK, through all the unfoldment, he can join the group who are the formulators of the plan. Modify, qualify, and adapt the plan. I guess you could say these are the modifiers of the plan. And, well, okay. DK admits to us why we should possibly be having a little trouble as we attempt. Yeah. And I want to, put that down. So we equip ourselves by grades, thus gradually. When we use the word gradual and we use the word grade, we're talking about the same thing. And even in elementary school and high school, you are graded according to your degree of accomplishment. So he can join the group who are the formulators of the plan. Now, DK, for our assurance, and so we don't become too discouraged in reading this kind of material, he says, we are dealing here with most difficult and complex matters, inherent in the initiate consciousness, and for which we have as yet no correct terminology. Let's see if I can get this. So he basically tells us that what we've been sensing about the difficulty of the material in this book is true. He corroborates that. And here we have, as yet, no really correct terminology. The masters and the students of esotericism are perhaps the first to come up with something approximating correctness. So if it seems still a bit vague to us, it looks like I think the best we can do is to approximate in our minds our interpretation of what he is giving us. The story is one of great interactivity of different levels, all involved in this supreme science of contact. And we just have to live with that. Sometimes DK says, well, we cannot do more than we are doing, and for right now, you will simply have to accept what is said. He goes on then. Also, the average aspirant has no idea what is the nature of the awareness or the reactions to contact of those who have passed beyond the third initiation. Well, maybe we, being initiates of the first and second degree, can think of ourselves as the average aspirant or average disciple. He continues, these limitations of the average student must be born in so always we are dealing with our own limitations. And we might try to push beyond them, of course. But still, we are limited. The average aspirant has no idea of those types of contact and awarenesses that pertain to those who have passed the third initiation. And, well, that's all of the masters, and it's high initiates and so forth. They sense, they register in a different way, and there's nothing we can yet do to equal what they have achieved. But one thing we do see here is that divine purpose must be stepped down if we are to have any notion of it whatsoever. And even the stepping down via the plan is demanding. And it is not a foregone conclusion by any means that when the three great lords of hierarchy speak, every disciple or aspirant will understand what they mean. There's a constant minimization of the full depth of the purpose and plan when they speak. But gradually, okay. And I'm just hoping that I'm doing this correctly so you can see, and my original sound is off. And I do want to share the sound, so I hope that that has not been a problem. There are so many little adjustments. I feel much more confident when one or other of our sharp communications team is on board. But with these telepathy programs, I'm pretty much on board with myself. Okay. DK goes on to say, the science of invocation and evocation, which embodies the technique of interplay within the hierarchy itself, to a certain degree between Shamballa and the hierarchy, and to an increasing extent within humanity and hierarchy, is based entirely on the sense of relation. remember the supreme science of contact. So he gives us the locales, the points of tension at which this so the places are, and it's a technique of interplay, yes, and it's within the hierarchy itself to a certain degree between Shamballa and hierarchy, and to an increasing extent with between humanity and hierarchy. Now, that is what concerns us, how we have this interplay with hierarchy, and not yet with Shamballa. No, not yet. But increasingly, with the externalization of the Christ, we will have, well, externalization of the hierarchy and the Christ, reappearance of the Christ, we will see the science of invocation and evocation at work between hierarchy and humanity. Okay, let's see. And right now I think we are pretty accustomed to having a degree of invocation and evocation among ourselves. But increasingly, we will be able to call upon hierarchy, and we will receive a telepathic response. And this will be one of the fruits of the more illuminated Aquarian age. This whole thing is based entirely on the sense of relation. As I've said before, when I look at some of those initial sciences in the beginning part of esoteric astrology, the science of relations or relation is listed, and I find it to be a fundamental science in inducing all modes of interactivity. So DK goes on. Therefore, only a certain level of conscious lives can invoke Shamballa and evoke response, and this because they themselves have developed some of the aspects of the type of mental understanding which is the hierarchical expression of the universal mind. So pretty much, it seems to me, though the process begins with the third initiation, by the time the fourth is reached, a real interactivity with the monad can be sensed. And this is a bit like invoking Shamballa. Shamballa is the place where the monad has its focus, its locus of expression. And why can they do this? Why can initiates of the fourth degree and beyond really come into touch with the monad? Because they themselves have developed something of the type of understanding related to universal mind. Okay. And DK knows the difficulty of the material which he is presenting to us. And maybe we ourselves do not yet have a proper estimation of this degree of difficulty. So by our first task, we are humanity. We are, as dedicated students of the ageless wisdom, entering the fifth kingdom of nature, which is the kingdom in which hierarchy is found, and the planetary spirits are the sixth kingdom, and something beyond hierarchy is found there. We have to have this rapport with the members of hierarchy. And to me, it's all part of the great science of relations, or here it is said, the sense of relation. I can kind of see the place in esoteric astrology where this idea of relation is found. Let's just see if it's worth oh, it's a word that really is found a great deal. I'm not doing too well finding it. Maybe I should use the word relations. And there are fewer of them. And maybe we can find it. Well, it is there. That much I know. That's the Hydra. Well, we've gone further than we should. It's in the beginning of the book. The science of astrology and other sciences. Let me try this. And this will be Science of Relations. And there's only a few. Well, I don't think I have time to do that right now, unfortunately. It might be interesting. But suffice it to say, although it is not dignified as the most important science, I think of it as extremely important, and that everything going on within the great Mahamaya is about relations. And by Mahamaya, I mean any universe, any finite universe. Every one of them is finite, in my view, but the collection of them, without beginning and end, is infinite. Okay. I know I wasn't really showing that to you as I was looking and trying to find it. But it is there. And it's pretty much in the introduction to the book. Okay. Now, let's go on. Who can really touch Shamballa? Many are the pretenders, the claimants, but even the masters of the fifth degree, unless specialized along the first ray line, do not have permission to simply enter Shamballa at will. I think the Chohans of the sixth degree and the still higher Chohans of the seventh, they have that permission. You know, what you're going to see up there is not a lot of human bodies moving around. You're going to see lights of various degrees of intensity and of certain qualities. That's why we're told of in the rays and the initiations about the lights that carry out the will of God. These are the occupants or the those who focus for however long within Shamballa. So sometimes it's hard to get a grasp of what they must look like to the inner eye. If we expect to see, as I say, Master Mori would call them the bipeds, somewhat sardonically, if we expect to see the similar kinds of pictures or pictorial relations as we find on the outer physical plane, we won't find that. Now, that doesn't mean that Sanat Kumara does not have a physical body if he wants to use it, just as the Christ has a Mayava Rupa, and so potentially do any masters of the 5th, 6th, 7th degree and beyond. They would have a Mayava Rupa if they have created one, but their normal mode of appearance and their movements are not depending on the walking of 2 feet and 2 legs. So we have to begin to think about what their appearance might be. Okay, going on with the Tibetan a little bit here. The light and futile talk of certain writers and thinkers anent the cosmic consciousness. I think, let me interpolate. That's an exaggeration. I think there was a line of students who were enamored of Walt Whitman, and there was a man named Buck, I don't know his first name, but he wrote a book called Cosmic Consciousness. He was kind of in a way, a devotee of Whitman and felt that Whitman had cosmic consciousness, and then he wrote about the expansion of consciousness, which he called cosmic, but DK pointed out that it wasn't cosmic at all, although it is not denied that Whitman was, it seems, an initiate of the 3rd degree. But that takes you only so far, doesn't it? It's not really cosmic. We have to define that term. The light and futile talk of certain writers and thinkers anent cosmic consciousness, the Tibetan says, and their flippant use of such phrases as tuning in with the infinite or tapping the universal mind serve to show how very little is known in reality about the responses and the reactions of those of high initiate rank, or of those on the highest levels of hierarchical life, such as, I would say, the 3 great lords, Manu, Bodhisattva, Mahachohan. Well, tuning in on the infinite. I've given that a lot of thought, but it's not possible for any concrete being, any definite being, to tune in on the infinite. I would think only the transcendental, supra-universal deity can do that. Because in a way, the infinite is a reflection of the beingness of that great transcendental deity. But then again, we don't know at first how superficial may be our turns of phrase and our thoughts. There are some who talk about, infinite this, infinite that, and so forth. It just means a big number, basically. Okay, just a moment and I'll be with you. Okay. Well, sometimes there are these telephone calls, and I just have to take them. Now let's see where we are, if I can do that. I think I'm here. Right. Well, maybe just a little bit more. So anyway, we were talking about who it is and what it is that can tune in with the infinite. It's such an exaggeration when it comes from any concrete being, even from that finite being that we call the universal logos, or at least I've been calling it the universal logos, the kind of director of any particular universe. And even tapping the universal mind is far less of a chore, but again, we're not in a position to do that. Maybe some of the masters, like the Buddha, with his particular type of enlightenment, he was in a position to, would we say, tap the universal mind? And, when I think about it, I don't know that his enlightenment involved the lower four subplanes of the cosmic mental plane or the higher three. That's something that I need to ponder in the same way that the Christ had a cosmic touch regarding the cosmic astral. But what levels of the cosmic astral plane did he touch? Now, these things are just words for us until we can begin to become initiates of the third degree, and then begin our sort of approach towards monadic destiny, which is not going to work out immediately anyway. So very little, DK assures us, is known in reality about the responses and reactions of those of high initiate rank, or of those on the highest levels of hierarchical life. High initiate rank would take us to the 4th degree, and the very highest levels of hierarchical life would take us to the 6th degree, and in the rarest of cases, to the 7th. So there's so much beyond, there's so much given to us beyond our immediate capacity to experience. Oh, interesting. DK goes on to say, true capacity to invoke and evoke within initiate ranks is based upon a mysterious development impossible before the time of the 3rd initiation of the esoteric sense. So the development of the esoteric sense is what is allowing the kind of invocation and evocation which initiates can accomplish. Now, we are involved, of course, in learning about invocation and evocation, but we are not the kind of initiates talked about here. Most are probationary initiates, if they're interested in these matters. So, mysterious development impossible before the time of the 3rd initiation. And isn't it interesting that DK is somewhat talking about impossibilities in much of this book, things that are impossible to us. Okay. And at least we can somewhat academically absorb what he is saying. And one day it won't be just a matter of academics, it will be a matter of true experience. Well, okay, maybe a little bit more. It's just excellent. You know, I'm always amazed at what is going on here. And I think I'm trying to see where we really began from. And I'm not doing too well in discovering that. I don't want to make a mistake. I think we began from 71, and here basically this is when it says mind, the focus of planetary development. It's basically 71 to 75, and I don't think we are quite, I don't think we're quite there yet. Yeah, at 75, it should be the result of contact and receptivity. And let's see, Yeah, we began at 71. So basically, I should be taking this away and this would be the correct one. It would be 11. And anyway, you can tell that I'm winding up this program. Things are becoming, are indicating that we have to get ready for the Sacred Pentagram broadcast, which will be occurring in a couple of hours. So, okay. I'll just kind of leave it here about the true capacity to invoke and evoke. And basically, it looks like basically we just went to page 72, and we'll be ending program 28. I did start to get into this quite fascinating area, but I will let that go and say that program 28 is over and that today is the 20th, and I started from page 71 and went to, well, 72, not very far, and the next time will be XX. It will be program 29, and we'll start from XX. We don't know when exactly that will be. And the next part will be 73. So indeed it is 72. Okay, friends. I don't always have an uninterrupted space in which to do these, unfortunately. But I'll just live with it, such as it is. And I will stop the recording and wish you well from all of us. As DK said, it is a difficult material to assimilate. There is no real language for it, but we will continue to make our steady efforts. So from Tuya, me, and all of the communications team, many blessings and a good absorption. Okay, so I stop now. Bye-bye.